Hi, everyone. It's a few minutes till the top of the hour, and so we're going to just hang out here for a few minutes and then get started very soon. Thank you. Hi, welcome, everyone. It's top of the hour. We're going to get started here. We have about 30 minutes for today's session with some time for Q&A at the end. Please use the Teams Q&A button to submit your questions, and we'll review those at the end of the slides and hopefully be able to answer your questions there. Today's meeting is being recorded. Just want to let everybody know, and we'll certainly share that recording after the webinar. And if you'd like these slides afterward, they aren't automatically shared. So please just email us and we'll be happy to send them to you. Quick intro. My name is Dan McGran. I'm the Rev-Trac Sales Director. I live in the greater Philadelphia area in Pennsylvania. If you've ever been to the SAP US headquarters, which is in Newtown Square, that's roughly the area that I live in. So this is my first time using Teams for a webinar. So I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm not going to use the video options and hoping I don't click on the wrong buttons. So we're just going to stick to the slides today and then get to the Q&A at the end. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you might be joining from. Appreciate you tuning in for today's topic on what's changing with SAP Change Management. And there's lots of things going on, which we're going to cover today, including no more SolMan and introduction of new tools, and then also about what Rev-Trac can do. So, quick look at today's agenda, a little bit about, the past, present, and future of SAP Change Management, right? What it's been, where it is now, and where it's going from our perspective. That's a big topic for us because that's what our company focuses on. Something about Solution Manager, a little bit more information about Cloud ALM or CALM, as it's called. And then towards the end, a little bit about Rev-Trac functionality, our current integrations with both Solution Manager and CALM, and just some information in those areas. So I think we can all agree that SAP teams are constantly overwhelmed with never-ending new projects and all kinds of changes thrown at them. Maybe some of the ones that you're seeing here on the screen are relevant for your organization. Maybe you're doing a cloud migration, could be to RISE or other hyperscalers. Maybe you're upgrading SAP, going through a large S/4HANA transformation project, all kinds of things that are important these days for organizations. And the bottom line is there's always more things to do than there is time to do them, is what we see. And really, no matter what your organization is dealing with, there's certainly a lot of change going on, specifically related to SAP. Keeps everybody busy. So at the beginning of this month, I was sort of putting these slides together, and I didn't know what this image on the screen was called. Right? I've seen them plenty of times, thought they were really interesting, but I learned something, and now I know it's called a word cloud. And I think we all know what it represents, though, right? We know that the larger, more prominent the words that are on the screen or in the cloud, the more significant they are to the topic. In this case, the topic is SAP Change Management, and I like to clarify that I'm talking about SAP Technical change management, which involves the technical changes, what people commonly have called transports over the years, and when they move between the various SAP systems, the dev, the quality, the production, and other systems. And that is different than another type of change management in SAP and IT called organizational change management, or OCM. OCM is very important because it involves training, adoption, ultimately the successful rollout and go live of SAP or other projects. But just to differentiate, that's a completely different topic, and we're really focusing on technical change management. So a lot of the common technical change management topics include things that you see bold here on this screen. Of course, S/4HANA, right in the middle, greenfield, brownfield, bluefield, whatever type of options you might be looking at. We even have customers that were early adopters to S/4HANA, and they might be upgrading from one version to another. They're doing customers are doing large-scale consolidation projects, maybe multiple ECCs into a single S4, or even non-ECC, non-SAP ERP environments into a single S4. They're big, large projects with lots of change associated with them. There's also activity of BTP. You can sort of see BTP represented pretty well on the screen. Examples we're seeing there with customers is moving from PO, sort of the on-premise version, to integration suite in the BTP, and other examples in the BTP world. SAP Rise, of course, very, very popular and hot topic among SAP and SAP customers these days. A Clean Core, probably not as relevant on this screen or as big on this screen, but it's an up-and-coming thing that a lot of customers are looking towards. But really, no matter what, these types of changes are here to stay, and they're really fundamentally changing the way that SAP customers are managing their SAP technical changes. So there is change in the wind, let's say. A little bit about the history, right? It's sort of amazing to me that there's almost always already 50 years of SAP history. I've been part of that time for about the last 18 years. Some of my coworkers for longer than that, although they don't always appreciate when I bring up the topic that they've been in the SAP world for so long. During my time working in the SAP world, really not much had changed regarding SAP change management. Lots of changing in SAP, but not with the SAP change management tools and processes. Here's a little bit of that history sort of depicted on this screen, and this is the only screen where I do a lot of building, so bear with me if you could. SAP customers in many cases, from what we observe, are still using some of the SAP and utilities that have been around for a long time, sometimes for decades. Command line is still used by customers today to move transports, right? The TP import, add to buffer commands. And fundamentally, our solution, Rev-Trac, which we share a little bit of information about towards the end, is built on that core SAP transport command line functionality, and it still works today. So that's been around. It's still in use, not too popular, but still sometimes used. Probably the STMS has been around, the SAP Transport Management System and the transaction. It's been around since the mid-90s. In our experience, it's the way many SAP customers move their transports these days, right? With manual STMS movement, right? I'm sure lots of people on today's call are familiar with that STMS process, where you log into the SAP system, you choose your transports, click on the truck icon to move the transports into the target systems and clients. Probably very familiar. Obviously, be careful not to click on accidentally on the big truck, which does the import all. Typically, that's not a good situation, but that's still probably the way most customers do it today. Then moving to the 2000s, these are all building on each other, right? When I started to learn about SAP Solution Manager was being rolled out, developed by SAP. The specific SolMan application for change management is called CHARM, Change Request Management. We're going to cover that a little bit more later in some more detail. But also around that time, CTS Plus was developed and introduced by SAP to manage those non-ABAP changes, as they're called. Changes from the Java-based applications that SAP was developing and acquiring at that time, things like Portal and XI and Business Objects, MII, those types of things. So that was something new, but again, it's been around for a while and people are using it successfully. but that was a big change, but really only that was the main change during that decade. And that really brings us up to the last few years where lots of changes to SAP Change Management started to happen, right? Because if you look at the first three circles here, they've probably covered about 40 years with very little changing, right? Just still using mainly STMS, some command line, charm in some cases. But then SAP started moving heavily, as we all know, into cloud applications, right? First with SAP Cloud Platform, if you remember that from a few years ago, now renamed and recalled BTP and expanded. And along with that, there's new ways to manage those BTP changes are needed. SAP also started developing Cloud ALM during that time to manage those new applications. Similar to SolMan, we're going to get into that in a few more minutes more deeply. CTMS or Cloud TMS was also introduced within the last 4 or 5 years and being adopted by customers these days to move those BTP changes. And CTMS is named, I think, appropriately. It used to be STMS, now it's CTMS for the cloud-based movement. So that's making a lot of sense. But the bottom line is that SAP Change Management is going through some major changes, and SAP customers have to update both their tools and their processes to handle those new requirements. And then if you think about it on a slightly different scale or a different timeline, ABAP's been around since the beginning, and it's there through at least 2040, according to SAP, because that's the base of S/4HANA and the other applications. Non-ABAP, again, it's there, still in use with some SAP applications, native HANA changes, XSA, those types of things. So that goes forward as well. And then the one that's newest to everybody, including us and many SAP customers, is SAP BTP. So they're the three areas from a change management perspective that SAP customers need to be aware of and concerned about today in managing things. But what hasn't really changed over that time are the challenges and requirements for effectively managing those SAP changes. Lots of challenges for the different types of stakeholders who are involved with SAP changes. Think about it, breaking it down into executives and then the COE and PMO and IT team. Executives are at the big picture level, right? Managing those transformation projects, accelerating transformation for the business, delivering that value to the business, reducing risks, managing costs, all those types of high level things. The people involved in the Center of Excellence or project management organization, they have all this change that is coming through projects and the daily SAP change support they need to do. They need to deliver those projects on time, on budget. They might be using DevOps and Agile initiatives to help manage that. And also they realize that SAP is part of the broader scope of the entire organization, right? SAP is very important, but there are other applications in there that need to be managed alongside with SAP. So they might need to integrate the SAP change management with some of those other change management tools for other applications. And then the people that are developing the changes, the approving the changes, testing the changes, the SAP IT team, many times they're dealing with different tools that aren't really aligned very well. They have to have new SAP environments, new SAP technologies to support. They're hoping for process consistency, but many times dealing with process inconsistency across their global organizations at many times. And ultimately, they're the people responsible for availability, compliance, and audit questions and things like that for these SAP changes. So this has stayed the same, but the SAP change management technology and requirements are sort of changing as well. So what they really need is a new way to handle these changes, stable, reliable, and proven way to manage them. Really, if you think about it, since SAP is fundamentally changing the way they develop and deliver software, if you're what I'd call a modern SAP customer, you need to make sure you can effectively govern the different types of changes. Again, namely, we're just mentioning these a little bit, the ABAP changes, the core of SAP and S/4HANA, the non-ABAP changes, and the new kid on the block, the BTP changes. So you need to take all those into consideration in a unified manner. And typical requirements at a high level are customers want a highly automated SAP change management solution with these flexible workflows and automated error checking, automated deployment, integration with other applications. They're sort of what they're looking for. And of course, SAP provides some applications for this purpose, but they're really in a state of transition, right? You can use, and that's what we're trying to depict here. You can use Charm for ABAP and non-ABAP changes, and many customers have been using that successfully for years. But for SAP changes, SAP recommends really setting up COM for that because it's managing those BTP changes. And in that scenario, you'd be managing two different tools, which is never optional, right? Charm and COM at the same time. You could use CTS Plus to manage the BTP changes with Charm, but that wouldn't be taking advantage of Cloud TMS. And that CTS Plus option is sort of limited in what it can do and its functionality, and that's why SAP is recommending COM to be used with Solution Manager to support those BTP changes if that's what you're moving towards. Towards the bottom here, you can also use COM for BTP changes, of course, that's what it was built for, but then supporting ABAP changes requires some of the legacy technology associated with Charm. Technically, it's called this STPI. It won't get into too much detail, but it's sort of like an agent for those ABAP systems. It doesn't require that Charm is configured. I want to be clear about that, but it does sort of borrow some of that functionality to make it work with COM. But the big issue right now is that the Charm functionality that customers want, things like cross-system object locked, downgrade protection, retrofit, aren't yet available for SAP COM. So you have to keep an eye on the COM feature roadmap, which we share with you in a few slides, and you'll want to keep an update on that. So, bottom line is SAP does have some options for customers today, but the current solutions are in a bit of a transitional period where SolMan's being phased out and COM is being developed. So a little bit more on that. Oh, one thing that we just found out this week, one of my colleagues let me know, was that Cloud ALM is not supporting CTS Plus. We just saw that on the SAP Help site. So just this is a changing environment, so you want to keep up to date with all the changes that are going on. So wanted to take a quick step back to briefly talk about Solution Manager, and don't worry, your eyes didn't go bad or your screen didn't turn fuzzy because this slide that I found is fuzzy. That's because it's really old. I think it's around from 2007, 2008. But I was looking for something that talked about all the functionality that Solution Manager had, and I distinctly remember some type of presentation I was at around that time where they had a similar slide with this circle and the slices, but the slices were slices of pizza, right? And someone had shown how the pizza pie type approach to, and that always stuck with me. But anyway, this shows that SolMan did and still does many things. Some love it, others not so much. But two of the most, SAP customers have been using successfully for quite some time. And two of the most memorable phases I remember about SolMan over the years are, it's a mile wide and an inch deep, and you can see it's very wide. It's doing a lot of things on this, but some of the functionality that was delivered might not have gone deep enough for some of the mid to large SAP customers. So I've heard that. And then the other one that we heard from a customer not too long ago is that SolMan is the most expensive free solution I've ever seen, right? So no matter what I think about SAP Solution Manager or what customers think, it's certainly made its mark with SAP customers. Lots of customers have adopted it over the past 15 years or so, but things are changing. And I think that's a big point of today's webinar. One other one that I remembered from old presentations was this one always stuck with me of, again, lots of functionality in Solution Manager, but using it effectively across all those different areas is sometimes challenging. That one always came to mind to me for sort of a visual depiction of Solution Manager. But as we just saw, has lots of features, capabilities in the context of SAP Change Management, which is really today's topic, not the other parts of SolMan. That functionality is called Charm, we know, for change and request management, used by many customers. And there were even a couple different derivations of Charm, including QGM or Quality Gate Management, Focus Build, but they were really just offshoots of the core Charm, and they used the core Charm functionality. I think we all knew that these solutions are highly customizable, can be modified with the right people and the right skills to implement, customize, maintain, upgrade them. But there is a an effort and a cost to do so, but it was important that it was customizable because that's one of the things that's changing. And if you look at a current availability of Solution Manager 7.2, borrowing this slide from SAP, it's available for ECC and on-premise customers. Of course, nothing's changed there. It's available if you're in hyperscalers. You just use it up there. You'd have to have the system hosted by your hyperscaler. And it is even available with RISE SAP, but that's the one you want to keep a quick eye on, is even though it's available with RISE SAP, you're typically looking at additional licensing cost for SAP hosting that SolMan system in RISE. So just be aware of that as you're looking at what to do if you're heavily invested in Solution Manager. Just we needed to point that out. And I think many of us, again, another SAP slide here, are familiar with this slide. Maybe not, and that's the point of today's webinar, is to share this information. But it's showing the timeline for Solution Manager, which coincides with the timeline for the end of Business Week, currently set for SAP at the end of 2027. You still have the options to extend the maintenance for Solution Manager, which would come if you extend your maintenance for Business Suite. So you have still some time left, but bottom line is it's coming to an end. SAP's made it very clear that there are no further releases for Solution Manager. We've heard that they've stopped development on it, which sort of makes sense because they're putting the development into Cloud Application Lifecycle Manager going forward. So what about Cloud Application Lifecycle Manager, or CALM? It's a lot easier to say CALM. That is available again for on-premise with those sort of caveats we talked about, where you have to have certain other functionality to make that work and support those changes for private cloud, and of course for RISE with SAP. So it's checking the boxes there. Probably about 2 years ago, from what I recall, SAP started to talk about transitioning from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM, and this is another SAP slide that talks about that. Where you sort of have two key areas of CALM, what they call the operations and service side, but mainly operations, which deals with the monitoring side, and the implementation side. And the left side here is talking about operations, where it's moving to the monitoring, and we're seeing lots of customers move in that direction because it's very mature on the monitoring side, and you can start using that, and even you can see SAP's recommending doing that now. Okay, as for the implementation, that's coming along at a slower pace. Functionality is being developed in CALM. We have the roadmap to share with you here in a moment, and you need to take your time going there because it's really not available for many of the features that people are used to from Solution Manager. And this one, since today's topic is really about change management, this looks a little bit at comparing the change management capabilities in Solution Manager compared to CALM. Okay, so on the left-hand side, clearly it's what was available and what many people might be familiar with on the Solution Manager side: normal changes, urgent changes, admin changes, all these different types of changes. That was the structure. And then on the right-hand side, Cloud ALM, the requirements and the features, corrections, and so forth. That's the architecture that's there. And our point here is that they are fundamentally different, right? And there's really no way to easily transition from Solution Manager to CALM because they're completely different concepts, completely different architectures. So it's sort of a start over approach if you're moving from Solution Manager CHARM to Solution Manager CALM. So we just wanted to make people aware of that, and that they are fundamentally different. You're going to have to change your processes, the way that you manage change in that type of transition. Here is the roadmap slide that is the most current one from SAP. We thought this is interesting to share with everyone today because this is clearly depicting what capability was or is available today in Solution Manager in this left-hand column, and you can see all these different types of features. In the middle, it's what is the equivalent, not always equal, but the equivalent functionality in COM and the planned availability timeline. And so this is a good way to start to say if you're using some of this functionality over here and you need it over in COM, is it there? Will it be the same? Will it be different? Will it ever be available? And this timing here helps you align with your project timelines and your requirements, right? You can see that some of them stretch out to 2025, 2026 and beyond is currently from SAP. So keep an eye on this. It keeps on changing. Some features come in and out. Some timelines change, but that's certainly something to keep an eye on in the COM space. And then looking a little bit closer at assuming that SAP develops and delivers that functionality and you have the charm-like capabilities in COM, SAP is still being very clear on what COM should be used for and really what it's not meant to be used for, right? And this is directly from their, this is not from our company, this is directly from SAP. It happens to be page 44 of their FAQ, the frequently asked questions for COM. And so we just wanted to highlight a couple of things here, which you can see in the yellow, where SAP is clearly saying that, you know, they're not recommending COM if you have high regulatory compliance or data privacy requirements currently, or you have complex system landscapes, strong governance requirements, or you need some of that other functionality that we're looking at the roadmap currently, right? So those are not available. Excuse me. And the SAP recommendation is if you need those things, to use Solution Manager and then switch to COM in the future, which quite honestly probably is a tough pill to swallow for some customers, because who wants to sort of invest in a platform in Solution Manager that has an end of life in the next few years and then eventually transition to some new solution. And then we're going to cover the highlighted part on the right hand of this slide in a little bit more detail, which Cloud ALM is meant for standardized or fit to standard ALM processes, and we'll get into what that means in a few minutes. So just wanted to point this out, and these next couple slides just really talk about similar type things with from the FAQ, right? For example, is there a backup and recovery in Cloud ALM? Not currently. We've heard that maybe some customers are moving in that direction to, or some third-party companies are going to provide something. But currently, if something's lost in COM, it's sort of lost and no way to recover it according to their FAQ. You know, and new functionality. Are they going to add digital signatures? They're still looking at it. Are they going to add things like email notification, which to me is very fundamental to a workflow application? They're saying that it's planned on their roadmap. And then I think we all know that COM is included if you have an SAP Cloud subscription, but it's included at a certain scale, right? So you get 8 gigabytes, as you can see here, of memory and monthly outbound data API transfer, just reading from the slide. But if you need more, you need to get more, right? And SAP has, again, all of these are from their FAQ, which we share the link with at the end of this presentation. Here's SAP giving an example where a customer might need to provision 2 additional Cloud ALM tenants that come in 8 gigabyte increments for a total of 24. Now, they might need that for more performance, more features, maybe for testing, because most customers want to test these things before they roll them out to production, those types of things. So in this example, it's 24 gigabytes. We don't know completely about SAP licensing, but what we've heard in some presentations is that each additional tenant is about $22,000 per year subscription. So in this case, from this example, you'd be looking at, I believe, around $44,000. So there could be some additional costs in the future for COM, depending on the size of your environment. And typically we deal with mid to large SAP customers, and you might be experiencing those in the future. So again, wanted to make everybody aware of that. And really, here's our one final slide on SAP COM to wrap up our information on what's changing from an SAP perspective. And this slide shows that COM is designed to be a fit-to-standard solution where customers adjust their SAP change management processes to align with the COM processes, which are depicted here with these darker purple color. And again, it's expected that COM users would follow these processes or new ones that SAP would develop over time. So you sort of have to adopt as SAP changes the COM solution. The lighter purple pinkish box towards the middle bottom is showing SAP's plans to enable customers to extend this fit to standard workflows with other BTP services, maybe customize it in some cases, but that's still in development per the note here from this SAP slide. And of course, additional costs, additional development, additional support would be required to do so. And then another thing to think about is additional testing would be required either anytime COM gets updated or this SAP workflow management solution gets updated. So you'd have to plan for those situations as well. So that's sort of, just back to this slide, the summary of what's changing. Hopefully that was some helpful information for everybody here today, just sharing a lot of information from SAP with that. And then I know here we are approaching the 30-minute mark, which is a pretty good time, maybe a minute or two behind. So hopefully you can stick around here for just a little bit about our solution. Rev-Trac can help SAP customers in this area. Quick background on Rev-Trac. We've been in the SAP space providing automated change management solutions for over 25 years, been an SAP software partner for over 20. Lots of customers and users around the world. A couple logos on this slide. Of course, what's a software vendor without lots of logos to share? All referenceable. Again, we can share these slides afterward. SIP. And then a little bit about Rev-Trac. Again, be happy to engage with folks afterward, but wanted to take a few minutes to give a quick introduction to what Rev-Trac is. And really, we're a highly automated change management solution, manages those ABAP changes, non-ABAP changes, and BTP changes in a unified way that I mentioned earlier. It does it from that single central interface. So really all users across the organization are aware in real time of all the SAP changes throughout your environment. We can handle simple to complex types of environments. What we're depicting here is a very simple dev quality prod, but of course we can handle much more N+1 or multiple qualities type systems, no issues there. We have integrations, including with COM, with Cloud Application Lifecycle Manager, with Jira, ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, in case you need to integrate it with those other tools to pass this information in a secure bidirectional way. We also have integration with other tools. They're not named here. They're sort of shown in the next slide, but testing tools and code checking tools and impact analysis solutions. So Rev-Trac is really that enforcement engine and orchestration layer across your entire change management processes. And we've been very good over the years at delivering key outcomes in terms of increasing the speed of change, saving time when you're doing things for your releases, large projects, reduction in your planned outages through our automated error checking, which is sequencing and dependency errors, helps with the audit time. So lots of benefits to Rev-Trac. Here is a little bit different view of a similar type of DevOps tool chain or CI/CD pipeline that you can achieve very easily with Rev-Trac. We're showing all these other products in here in the different categories, such as ITSM solutions or backlog management tools, the code review and impact assessment. So really, Rev-Trac is controlling that process in a very flexible way. We're not dictating that you have to use a single way of managing your change management. We let you easily configure Rev-Trac with different steps or statuses that examples are depicted here with these little clipboards, and in a very easy and flexible way to achieve that. So you can get exactly what you need to manage your different types of SAP changes. And lastly, we were with SAP last month at the Cloud ALM Summit in Mannheim, Germany, where we showed our integration with Cloud ALM. So we do have an active integration with Cloud ALM, if that's of interest to anyone. And reason why SAP asked us to join them was because there are some complex scenarios with tend to be larger SAP customers where a solution like Rev-Trac is needed to manage things like multiple N+1 environments or these air gap environments in secure customers where the production system is completely separated from your dev and quality systems. So these different types of special scenarios, if any of them come to mind, please reach out to us, because we've handled them for other customers and be happy to let you know how we can manage those unique situations for some SAP customers. And with that, we're going to transition to the question and answer in just a minute, just running a few minutes late. But please reach out to us. We've put together this reference links for some of the COM FAQ that I was sharing a lot of, and the some of the slides and presentations and trainings that you can have, along with some Rev-Trac information, such as demos to our integration with COM and normal Rev-Trac demos. So please reach out to us and you'll be able to get access to these. So with that, I'm going to move over to my Teams interface. Appreciate everyone sticking around for the couple extra minutes, and I'm going to try and access the Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing though now and go to the Q&A. So first one, do we work with SAP NS2 S4? So NS2, the secure SAP cloud environment, and yes, Rev-Trac works in that environment. So thanks for that question. Okay, here's another one. For my company, where we have 3 different tracks for AMS, I guess they mean application management support, small projects and big projects, okay, very similar or very common, it would be impossible to work without resources like CSOL, DGP, and Retrofit. Do I have any idea when COM will have these features available? Yeah, we do not control the SAP roadmap. I agree that working without cross-system object lock and downgrade protection and retrofit capabilities would be very, very challenging with that. So right now, you just have to keep an eye on SAP roadmap, or of course, Rev-Trac has had those types of capabilities for probably 15 plus years, very mature capabilities. Happy to let you know what we can do in those particular areas to support those different tracks, as you call them, across your different types of SAP systems. So that's a common use case for customers implementing Rev-Trac, would be those things. So leave it here for another minute or two. I know we're about 6 minutes past. We have a couple new questions coming in. Okay. How are existing customers of SAP and ServiceNow transitioning from COM? Okay. Yeah, that's you can certainly answer that. That are transitioning to COM. It says, that's a good question. There are some APIs available with COM, but again, that's something that a unique use case where Rev-Trac certainly can handle the full bidirectional integration with ServiceNow or some of those other tools. So we'd love to talk to you about that. Oh, sorry, I'm getting some Teams messages pop up. And looking at others, that looks like we're through the question and answer session. Again, we will everyone will automatically get a recording today, or a copy of today's recording if you want to share with colleagues or review anything. So we appreciate you attending today, and please reach out if you would, if you want to get the slides that we have, so you can have some of that reference material that I showed on the last slide. And hope you enjoyed today's webinar. We appreciate you joining us. Take care. Going to end it now. Oh wait, one more new post, sorry. Is your solution available as an on-premise or SaaS? Okay, great question, appreciate that. Rev-Trac is a on-premise solution. It can be installed in RISE. We're certified for RISE or any other hyperscaler, but it is delivered as an on-premise solution. It is not a SaaS solution. So we had that one last minute question come in. Again, thank you everyone. Hope to talk to you again. Perhaps see you next week or in 2 weeks at the SAP ASUG Tech Connect in Florida. So if you're there, check out the Rev-Trac booth.